thank you for coming to the council meeting this evening. Today is July 20th, 2020. The time is 6 p.m. Ms. Garcia, can we please call the meeting to order?
Mayor called the meeting to order at 6:01. I will take roll call. Roll call. Mayor Tara Walter.
Here.
Vice Mayor John Anderson.
Here.
Councilmember Karen Wall.
Here.
Councilmember Kristen Larson.
Here.
Councilmember Michelle Cordes.
Here.
Councilmember Judy Hughes is ill tonight and will not be attending. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. At this time, I'd like you to join me in standing for a moment of silence, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with
liberty and justice for all.
All right, our first item is our call to the public. Call to the public for public comment on issues within the jurisdiction of the town council. Council rules limit public comment to 3 minutes. Ms. Garcia, have we received any requests for public comment at this time?
Mayor, we did receive 2 emails today regarding Grinder Sport. I did forward them to council. They were very similar. I have contacted each one of those members to let them know that the questions posed, that tonight's action is specifically to enter into negotiations, which would begin the due diligence period. I did ask both of them if they would like to provide a comment to be read at the council meeting or wanted further clarification. I did not receive emails from them. So you have the emails.
All right, thank you very much. I appreciate that. If there's no further, then we'll go ahead and close call to the public at this time. At this time, we need a motion to adjourn to Merrill Ranch Community Facilities District number 1.
Motion to adjourn to Merrill Ranch Community Facilities District number 1. Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
All opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Item A is ordinance number MRCFD 117-20. This is the second reading and discussion, approval, disapproval of an ordinance of Merrill Ranch Community Facilities District number 1, Town of Florence, Pinal County, Arizona, levying the assessed valuation of the property within the Community Facilities District subject to taxation of a certain sum upon each $100 of valuation, sufficient to raise the amount estimated to be received from funds for community facilities expenses for the fiscal year ending the 30th day of June 2021. Ms. Becky Jimenez.
Yes, thank you, District Chairman and Board. Tonight, we have Merrill Ranch Community Facilities District number 1 looking for approval for the levy for ad valorem tax. We are looking at a debt service rate of 1.6855 or $552,717. And then in operation and maintenance for the administrative funds of 0.30 cents per $100 of net assessed valuation for a total of $98,377. The total levy for district number 1 is $651,094 at a combined rate of 1.986855 per $100 of net assessed valuation. The debt service is very important to sustain all the debt that's incurred with the GO bond issues. And the operation and maintenance is a small amount that the town, that the district collects to maintain the district itself for all the expenses that are related to the various GOs and assessments within the district itself.
Okay, thank you. Are there any members of council that have any questions or comments regarding this item? Okay, this is our second reading. This is up for a motion, so at this time, I need a motion.
I make a motion, we adopt ordinance MRCFD 1117-20.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
Aye.
And that motion carries. Item B is discussion, approval, disapproval of the Merrill Ranch Community Facilities District Number 1, July 6, 2020, special meeting minutes. Is there anybody who has any questions regarding those minutes? With that, we need a motion.
Make a motion to approve the minutes for the Merrill Ranch Community Facilities District Number 1, dated July 6, 2020. Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item 7, we need a motion to adjourn from Merrill Ranch Community Facilities District Number 1.
Make a motion to adjourn from Merrill Ranch Community Facilities District Number 1.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Number 8, adjourn to Merrill Ranch Community Facility District Number 2.
I'll make a motion to adjourn to Merrill Ranch Community Facilities District Number 2.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item 8A is ordinance number MRCFD 217-20. This is the second reading and discussion approval disapproval of an ordinance of Merrill Ranch Community Facilities District Number 2, Town of Florence, Pinal County, Arizona, levying the assessed valuation of the property within the Community Facilities District, subject to taxation of certain sum upon each $100 evaluation, sufficient to raise the amount estimated to be received from funds for community facilities expenses for the fiscal year ending the 30th day of June, 2021. Ms. Becky Jimenez.
Yes, thank you, District Chair and District Board. Tonight we have Merrill Ranch Community Facilities District Number 2 ad valorem levy for debt service fund for general obligations bonds in the amount of $3.25 levy on $100 of net assessed valuation, or $760,514. The rate for operations and maintenance is 30 cents per net assessed valuation, with an estimated of $70,847. So the total levy is for $838,361, with a total rate of $3.55 per $100 of net assessed valuation. And again, this is for the debt services for the general obligation bonds that have been issued in the District Number 2, and the same amount, the 30 cents for general operations and maintenance of the district.
Council, are there any questions? Okay, with that, we need a motion.
Make a motion to approve MRCFD 217-20.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
And that motion carries. Item number 8B is discussion approval disapproval of the Merrill Ranch Community Facilities District Number 1, the July 6th, 2020 special meeting minutes. Board, is there any questions regarding that item? With that, we need a motion.
Make a motion to approve the minutes of the Merrill Ranch Community Facilities District Number 2, July 6, 2020 meeting minutes.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item number 9, we need a motion to adjourn for Merrill Ranch Community Facilities District Number 2.
I motion we adjourn from Merrill Ranch Community Facilities District Number 2.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Item number 10 is presentations. At this time, 10A is a presentation regarding Steward Health and COVID-19 presentation by Dr. Derek Glum. Mr. Billingsley, can I have you introduce him at this time?
Madam Mayor, thank you very much. I had the pleasure of meeting Mr. Glum 2 weeks ago. He and I got together and I was able to meet him in person for the first time. We had talked on the phone a couple of different times. Mr. Glum is the new Chief Operating Officer for Mountain Vista Hospital. So that makes him also the COO for the Florence Anthem Hospital as well. And he's a very nice man. He's very connected in Arizona in this area. He's the past head of Gila River Healthcare. And Mountain Vista has been lucky enough to bring Derek on. Derek, are you on the phone?
I am. Can everybody hear me okay?
All right, fire away.
Thank you, Brent. I appreciate the introduction. Madam Mayor, members of council, it's a pleasure to meet you. As Brent said, yes, I've recently started my stewardship at Mountain Vista Medical Center in Florence, June 1st. I've had the pleasure to also run the tribal health system at Gila River since 2017. So I was there as a chief operating officer and then as the interim CEO for about 6 months before coming over here. So that's been fantastic. It's been great. And one of the highlights of certainly my new position is being able to be kind of the administrator specifically for our Florence Hospital, which I'm really excited to meet you all in person at some point when that happens. And work with you on the needs that you see for your community that we can help better serve for you. A few things that I have for you, and then certainly can open up to any questions or thoughts that you have. Certainly from a COVID update, which I think will be very helpful for everyone. We're starting to see a reduction in the rise of new cases day over day and week over week statewide. Pinal County is also seeing the same trajectory based on the Arizona Department of Health website. Total amount of new cases is starting to taper day over day. As a matter of fact, there weren't any new reported cases as of yesterday or deaths in Pinal County. So some very positive and beneficial news. It's directly off of the state's website. In terms of what we've been doing to really prepare for and be ready to take COVID patients, we've had upwards to 30 positive COVID patients over the last 6 weeks in the Florence Hospital. They come through generally our emergency department, and then we take immediate precautions as we're testing or ruling out for any COVID symptoms. And then certainly if they require more acute care, we're able to stabilize them and then transfer them to Mountain Vista. But as long as we can keep them in Florence, the better. We certainly want to make sure they're in their community and have their support system of their family and friends, even though our amount of visitors is limited. But we've been really lucky to have the support of our corporation. We have a daily call with the resources from a corporate office to really assess any staffing, equipment, or medication needs that we have. And they've been able to provide us a lot of those resources as we've needed moving forward. So it's been really, really great. In terms of kind of, the next few weeks or a couple of months ahead, it's really hard to tell. I think if anybody could really project it, they'd have the corner on the market. But for the Florence community and certainly for Mesa and where we operate, we're seeing the duration of the illness not be as long and the severity of the illness start to taper a little bit. So individuals who would have been intubated or been put on life-saving machines, those are not happening as frequently. The medications and the treatment plans that have been used and are kind of consistent with that diagnosis are being effective. So if anybody comes into the hospital to visit, we do limit visitors. We are asking for face masks if anyone comes into the hospital proper. But for the most part, we're starting to see some good movement. And like I said, we're not going to call it a taper or a plateau yet, but the increased cases are starting to slow. So I'll stop there for a second and entertain any COVID-related questions that anyone may have.
I know the big question within our community related to COVID-19 has been focused around testing. Could you
Sure.
talk to us a little bit about what the hospital offers?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Madam Mayor, for that question. Happy to answer that for you. We are facilitating testing every day at the Florence Hospital from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Catherine and I, if she's still on the line, have been working together to make sure that the community employees have access to that. That also applies for community members at large. So if they've received an order from their physician to be tested, we can facilitate that through the emergency department. So we have staff there every day ready to take the big Q-tip and get back in the, it is not the most comfortable thing, I can promise you, but that is the state approved way at the moment. But so yeah, we're testing anywhere from 20 to 30 individuals on a daily basis. Sometimes it's as few as 10 to 15. Sometimes we've seen a spike of anywhere from 35 to 45. The reason it goes to 11 is because starting at about 11:30, that's when we see our volumes in the ED really start to climb from ambulance traffic, from walk-ins, those types of things. So the staff that we use in the ED are the same that we use for the COVID testing. So in order to make sure we've got resources allocated specifically to the actual ED traffic, that's generally when we end the COVID testing through the ED. But yeah, the testing's been going great. You can also certainly come to Mountain Vista. We have that open every day from 9 to noon through our front entrance. We have a drive-through. So if somebody doesn't have a specific physician's order, that's okay. We can use the state order from Dr. Kara Christ, which we can use for someone to be tested for the COVID, through the COVID nasopharyngeal swab. So that's kind of how the testing is going so far.
Thank you for that, Council. Does anybody have any questions?
Do you have to have an appointment?
No, you do not. You're welcome to call and see if in the Florence ED, if there's available, or let them know that you're on your way. That's totally fine, but an appointment is not required.
Thank you.
I know. I have a question, Mayor. I personally went to the doctor's office, and that particular doctor's office was completely out of COVID tests. They were doing the antibodies tests as a way to sort of backtrack their testing. So do you guys have enough testing supplies, or how are those currently looking?
Sure. Thank you for the question, Councilwoman and Madam Mayor. In terms of availability, we've been pretty well stocked with actual testing kits. You probably don't know, but we're also facilitating all of the employee testing for GRIC, for Gila River Indian Community, and all the casino employees. So we've been allocated a fairly large amount of what we call our RUHOF kits. Comes from one of our lab suppliers. So we have, depending on the total amount, we've seen there's a reagent that goes into the testing vial after we do the swab. Sometimes that reagent will be a little lacking, but we've not seen right now an absolute lack of those to where we've not been able to do testing. So testing kits we're doing fine with, and anticipate that to still maintain status quo. But certainly if we start to see a dwindling in our supplies, we'll have to pull back some of that testing. So we have to maintain a certain amount of tests per the state's the governor's executive order for inpatients, for surgeries, and some of those other required methods. So we have to keep at least a certain amount on hand for that.
Excellent. Well, on behalf of council, I'd like to say thank you for coming out and introducing yourself to us and giving an update. We're really excited that the hospital, opened up not even 9 months ago, and we seem to be making a lot of good headway in regards to relationships and services, and looking forward to expanding the services offered by the hospital as well.
Absolutely. It's our pleasure to be in the community and look forward to continued partnership. And Brent has my contact information, so any of you are welcome to text me, email me, call me anytime. If you have any issues or anything that you'd like to suggest, happy to be there for you.
Excellent. Thank you again.
My pleasure.
Our next item for presentations is the Water Smart Conference Summary Presentation. At this time, I'll call Ms. Benitez.
While we're waiting for Mari to get ready, I know she was on the phone a few minutes ago. A group of us went and we actually applied for a grant. A group of us went and attended a 2-day seminar called Growing Water Smart, put on by the Sonoran Institute. Vice Mayor Anderson was part of that group. It was myself, Ben Bitter, Chris Salas, Tim that operates our water department, and Marisala. Excellent course, and as part of that course, there was a follow-up portion based on the work that was done there. We've waited to give this presentation because there was a key follow-up item, which was us getting ready for our water element for the general plan. We then hired the Sonoran Institute to help us develop our scope of work to send that to the street, and then followed up a grant application. One of the benefits of going to Growing Water Smart was that made us eligible to apply for a grant for technical assistance. We then applied for a grant through the Sonoran Institute, and we just found out 2 weeks ago we received that grant, and they will be preparing the policy section of the report for us. And hopefully Mari's ready now. Mari, you ready?
Wait, Mr. Billingsley, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. I am glad that you talked about that grant. And then also in my email today, I received a message from the Water Smart program where they're now accepting applications for the Water and Energy Efficiency Grant,
Yep.
up $2 million.
Yep.
So
Yes,
I'm
ma'am.
glad. Thank you. Hi, Mari. How are
There she is.
you?
I'm doing good. I hope my computer holds out for me. Madam Mayor, fellow members of the council, back in February, staff and Vice Mayor Anderson went to a conference held by the Sonoran Institute called Water Smart. There we had case studies, presentations, and collaborations among our own staff and other staff from other cities to talk about how we can create an action plan that'll help us be more sustainable in our water use and land use in the future. We started by looking at our own portfolio, which we have a strong portfolio for a town of our size. We take water from the ground and also from the Central Arizona project. We have a assured water supply designation, and we also have control over the use of the water we recharge and that we get from the CAP. With this strong portfolio, we went forward into this Water Smart conference and looked at our different challenges and consequences of not creating the main goal of this Water Smart conference, which was to make an action plan. Some of the challenges were communication, lack of a process, lack of consistency, and whether or not our assured water supply is going to be the same within the coming years. And some of the consequences of not making an action plan would be a cost of services possibly going up. We couldn't achieve build out without knowing what kind of water we have to provide to development, and just the overall possibility of not being able to serve our community. So we thought of some goals that we wanted out of this action plan, and we wanted to be able to maintain what we have, but be able to know what we could use with what we're already tapping into. Now, we want this action plan to target most of our basic stakeholders, which is council. We want them to be involved, as well as the general public. We also want to be involved with committees and communities that are next door. We also want internal staff to be able to connect with each other when going about this process. Some goals that we had drafted were to research water in Florence, and not just what water can do for businesses and commercials, but how much water we have for residential. We want to be able to conserve and use this water efficiently in order to grow in a healthy manner and be able to reach our planning area without the possibility of running out of water. We also want to improve the quality of the water and to identify criteria within our general plan that'll help us do that. This all leads to what we decided to be our action. Our action plan is basically updating our water element in the general plan update. Our general plan is 10 years old and in the process of being updated right now. We don't have the same issues in water as we did 10 years ago. So our action plan consists of a timeline of 12 months. In the first 3 months, we agreed to do research and to look into bringing water consultants, collecting data from neighboring cities, counties, municipalities, and also discussing with council what could be some possible things to be put in the water element. For the 6 months, we're hoping to incorporate some of the consultants' work into the general plan update so we can complete the water element and move the general plan forward. We hope to have the general plan to council by 2021. And that's where the 12 months we hope to have the water element complete. Now, as Brent already explained, our next steps were to gather information, look at water policies from neighboring cities and towns, and to draft what our process will look like. With the help of Aaron Riglin from the Babbitt Center, we were able to draft a scope of work that shows a timeline of what kind of where we want to be with policies, recommendations, and then where we want to insert all that, a gathering of information into the actual general plan update and working with the consultants who are doing that update so it all integrates into one tightly fit plan. As Brent stated, we have applied for the grant. It has been accepted, and we are working with them and in contact to get consultants to help gather information about water policy recommendations. That concludes my presentation. I am now ready to receive questions if you have any.
Council, do you have any questions for Ms. Benitez?
I don't have a question, but Mari, you did a great job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a question. We talked about this at the conference, but somehow we need to drag Johnson Utilities / EPCOR into our discussion because they need to be a part of our concern about water since they're providing water for a large part of the population. So I don't know how we do that, but we need to at least reach out to them and try to drag them into this conversation. Brent might be able to add to that.
Yes, sir. I'm actually quite proud of the team. Following the conference, we've been working very hard. There for a while, Mari was leading us in weekly meetings, and then they became bi-weekly meetings, and then they became monthly meetings due to COVID and some of the challenges we had, as well as waiting to see if we received this grant and working with Sonoran Institute on the scope. But we've made it very clear. We've reached out to EPCOR and have started that dialogue. And just in the last couple of weeks, I think that they fully understand the importance of the discussion and how we need to continue that forward. I actually had a conversation today that had to do with this same situation with a developer who is partially in the Johnson Utility CCN and partially not in the Johnson Utility CCN, and working to get together and have a meeting to see how we all work together towards a common solution that benefits all. So I think it's going to be a very positive process, a positive outcome, and I really appreciate Mari stepping forward and taking the lead with respect to this. We all chose Mari when we were at the Growing Water Smart Conference, and she's doing an excellent job. So thank you, Mari.
She did. Thank you, Mari.
Thank you. Councilmember Cortez, did you have a question as well?
No, I just wanted to tell Mari that I thought she did a good job.
I have a question.
Oh, Councilmember Wall, go ahead.
I'm just curious, bringing up Johnson Utilities made me wonder, What is the comparison between the number of water users in the Johnson system within the town limits and the users within the town of Florence system? Do we have any numbers to compare?
Yeah, Johnson has significantly more customers on both the water and the sewer side than the town of Florence.
So I would just echo what John mentioned about bringing Johnson into our discussions, especially for the general plan, the water element, because as Anthem and other areas surrounding them continue to grow, their water sustainability could become a big issue.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, excellent job, Mari. And I agree with Vice Mayor and Councilmember Wall in those sentiments. All right, moving on to the consent agenda. All items on the consent agenda will be handled by a single vote as part of the consent agenda unless a council member or a member of the public objects at the time the agenda item is called. Item A is ratification of the interagency service agreement extension between the Arizona State Parks and the town of Florence to manage McFarland State Historic Park through December 31st, 2020. Item B is approval of Addendum 1 to the Intergovernmental Agreement, IGA, with the Florence Industrial Development Authority for use of the Suter House. Item C is approval to change Order 7 for Westland Resources for the Post and Butte Preserve project on-call engineering. Item D is authorization to contract with Ascendant Auto and Diesel Services, Inc. for repair and maintenance of the town fire apparatus. Item E is approval of the June 1st and June 15th, 2020 Town Council meeting minutes. Ladies and gentlemen, that is our consent agenda. Is there anybody who would like anything removed at this time?
I would like item A removed, please.
I'll echo that.
I do too.
Okay, so we are going to need a motion to approve the consent agenda, removing item A.
I motion to approve consent agenda with the removal of item A.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign, and that motion carries. All right, item number A. I'm going to first have Councilmember Cortez speak and then go on to Vice Mayor Anderson and Councilmember Wall.
So I have a couple questions just for clarity on the first one. So the money that we receive from the state, this will probably be for Becky, what account does that get deposited into? And then is that the money that we use to assist the chamber in running McFarland?
I am not quite clear on what money you're talking about that we received from the state. I would have to, who, is it a grant that you're?
I can go ahead and answer, Becky.
Oh,
I'd be happy to help. So what happens is the town of Florence has an intergovernmental agreement with the state of Arizona for the town to operate McFarland Park. In return, the town goes ahead and we contract with the Chamber of Commerce. If you see under fiscal impacts, the $6,500 is for utility costs that the town does incur by having that within our budget. The state does have issues where they maintain large portions of repairs that are necessary at McFarland. The town does maintain day-to-day operational type repairs and maintenance of McFarland. Right now, we're just asking for the council to consider allowing us to enter into an agreement that would allow us to be a 6-month agreement so that we can meet with the state and we can actually negotiate out the terms of the agreement. There's a new state director that the town hasn't had many conversations with. We'd like to sit in a room with them. They offered to allow for a 6-month extension while we negotiated terms of the agreement.
Okay, that did not answer the question. So my understanding is that the state gives us money to run McFarland Park.
No,
Is that
ma'am.
correct?
No,
Okay,
the state
So-
does not give us money to run McFarland Park.
okay, because that's what my question was. The second question is, when you read through this, it talks about the repairs. And I know that one of the issues we've had was the walkway. And according to Jennifer, it was a discussion as to whose responsibility it was to pay for that walkway. Was it ours or was it the state parks? So as I'm reading this, it appears that it would be ours just based on the agreement that we have. So I guess I just want to make sure that we know what we're getting into and what it's going to cost, especially if there's no funds coming into us for running this, because the repair of that walkway is not cheap. And I mean, I think it's pretty clear when I read this that it was our responsibility to repair it and work with them on a solution to repair it. But it has, if it's even been repaired yet, it's taking forever to get repaired.
Are you discussing the porch?
Yeah.
Okay, so the town of Florence meets with the Arizona state and we go over it. That's considered a major repair and the state is responsible for that repair. They have accepted the responsibility. When the last repair of the porch was done, they actually hired and paid for all repairs of that porch. Of course, that was underneath the previous director of state parks. And so those are the exact type of things that we want to sit down and negotiate because there's too much gray within the current contract.
And that, yeah, and that's what I wanted to bring up is that we need to make sure we know for sure what is our responsibility and what is their responsibility, and then what do we actually partner with to repair, because I don't want us to have to sit there and wait for God knows who to make that decision.
And yes, we agree too. And then when it becomes the state, when the state takes on that responsibility, they actually have to go back through their state parks boards as well as get all of the approval and authority from the powers that be there too. So sometimes it is a lengthy process to go through and get the required authorizations. And sometimes the required authorizations we get this fiscal year mean funding for the following fiscal year. So that's all important to be included within that contract.
All right. All your questions answered, council member? Okay, Vice Mayor?
Well, my question is very similar to what you were talking about. My question is about the railing and the stairs. Is the state going to pay for that, or do we pay for that? You know, that rope has been up now for what, nearly 2 years?
In the conversations with the state previously, the town and the state agreed that that would be a major improvement to the park, which meant that the state was accountable for providing those repairs. And we can go back and we can continue to work with the state to bring forth those repairs. I don't have a report showing the last time that we met with them on the repairs. We have met with them to discuss negotiating this agreement. They did ask for more time to be able to review. We agreed with that because we have strict terms that we want to be able to consider for this agreement before we bring it to council. It will be brought before you within the next month with those terms outlined.
Will those terms include dates for when the railing and porches are going to be completed?
If the state is paying for those repairs, the town does not have the ability to push forward their payment nor their programming of the repairs. We can go in and we can outline per the agreement whose responsibility it is, and we can outline in which fiscal year it will be funded.
Okay. That's all.
Go ahead, Vice Mayor.
That's all I had.
Councilmember Wall?
Well, my question was the same, and that pertained to the railing around the porch. It has been forever, and that rope is a pain in the rear, pardon my language. It really impedes access to that area, including the chamber's offices. It's difficult for people to find where to access the park itself. So I know that we we want to know when that's going to be done. I would agree. I would like to see us try to push that, even though we may not have much success. My only other comment was in the agreement that was included with this agenda item. It's the old agreement, I think. We want to make sure that we eliminate reference to the Florence Main Street program. There, it's referenced in section Roman 4B1. There's a couple of references to that, and we probably would want to include either the chamber or just some generic name to which we may subcontract. So those are my only comments.
Good comments. Ms. Garcia, when are you anticipating setting up a meeting with the State Parks Director?
Jennifer's on, and this is her item, so I'd be happy to allow her for takeover. Sorry, today was a vacation day for Jennifer, so I assumed she was going to be on vacation. Sorry, Jennifer.
Oh, no problem. Madam Mayor, members of the council, we, in our recent conversations with State Park staff, we have asked them for a meeting. We have not set a specific date, but I believe firmly that that time is of the essence on this matter. And we don't want to wait until the 6-month mark or even later. So we're going to try to set that up within the next month or two.
Excellent. I'm also available to sit in on that meeting, so feel free to loop me in.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. With that, with no further questions or comments on that item, we need a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve consent agenda item A.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign. And that motion carries. Item number 12, unfinished business. 12A is ordinance number 695-20. This is the second reading and discussion approval, disapproval of an ordinance of the Town of Florence, Pinal County, Arizona, levying the assessed valuation of the property within the Town of Florence subject to taxation, a certain sum upon each $100 of valuation sufficient to raise the amount estimated to be received from funds for general municipal expenses for the fiscal year ending the 30th day of June 2021. Ms. Becky Jimenez.
Thank you, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Town Council. Yes, this is our primary property tax levy. Last year we levied a certain amount, and this year we are not levying more than we did last year. The rate last year was 1.0740 per $100 of net assessed valuation. The rate for this year is 0.01585 per $100 of net assessed valuation. The levy itself, when you apply the levy rate to the property value, is an individual matter. It's dependent upon whether your property value was less than last year, the same as last year, or more as far as what the taxation itself is going to be. So this is our property tax levy for this year. It supports the general funds, everything that's within the general fund, administration, police, fire, community services, and community development. It is not a very large percentage of the general fund, but it's over $1 million. It's $1.1 million plus.
Okay. Council members, do you have any questions or comments?
I just wanted to say it was a great explanation, Becky. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. If there's no further questions or comments, with that, we need a motion.
Make a motion to approve ordinance number 695-20.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? And that motion carries. Item number B is ordinance number 696-20. This is the second reading and discussion approval, disapproval of an ordinance of the Town of Florence, Pinal County, Arizona, adopting a secondary property tax for fiscal year 2020-2021 for Anthem at Merrill Ranch Streetlight Improvement District number 1, Anthem at Merrill Ranch Streetlight Improvement District number 2, an anthem at Merrill Ranch Streetlight Improvement District number 3. Ms. Becky Jimenez.
Yes, thank you, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Town Council. This is our ad valorem property tax or secondary property tax for the streetlight improvement districts in Merrill Ranch community facilities. We do not have a levy in streetlight improvement district number 1 nor number 2. We have ample funds this year to support the electrical costs in the slids there. But in district number 3, we had to levy last year, and we'll have to levy about $29,000 this year at a rate of 0.1433 per $100,000, $100,000 home. So if you, pardon me, that's per $100,000 of net assessed valuation. So actually, if you have a $100,000 home, it would be $14.33. This supports the electrical services for the streetlights in that district.
All right, thank you. Council members, do you have any questions? With that, go ahead, Vice Mayor.
I still oppose this because, you know, you're taxing part of the town for lights and part of the town we don't tax. So I just don't like the idea of taxing, you know, half the town for street lights and the other half get them free.
I'd have to agree with John. I mean, we've talked about this before about breaking out lights that would normally be covered and that are the other ones that are actually more excessive than the standards. And yeah, I don't understand why we couldn't execute something like that to break those out and put those in the general fund, because I don't believe it's proper to have them be taxed on just those individuals when there are lights that are covered in those districts that are more normal across town, and we know how many of those are. We can count those out and make them, you know, percentage wise more tax friendly to the citizens. Sorry, I'm losing my words today.
I just want to follow in with Kristen and John. We've had this discussion a couple times, and I feel like we've never really been given a good solution to it. It just it pops up on the agenda for us to go ahead and approve this tax, but I feel like the concerns that Councilmember John Anderson and Councilmember Kristen Larson had brought up still haven't really been addressed for us. So now we're being asked to go ahead and just move forward, and I feel like that puts us in a kind of an unfair position because we still had lingering concerns and we still wanted a solution brought to us, and we were never given a solution.
Madam Mayor, this is Brent.
Go ahead, Mr. Billingsley.
Well, there's two different things. One of those is what are we going to do with our slids in the future, and is there how do we handle the issue with part of the town having slids, part of the town not having slids? We've had multiple council meetings on this and provided a lot of information in the past. I want to focus on tonight. Lisa and Chris can step in because the slids has been their primary issue that they've worked on and provided data and information on. But we have these slids. We are required to tax on the secondary property tax for these slids that are created. We require in our development code all new development to create slids specifically to pick up those costs. And keep in mind, we have development agreements with entities like Pulte and D.R. Horton, where they're assured that we're going to, once these slids are created, collects these taxes on an annual basis. So if we do not, correct me if I'm wrong, Cliff, but if council votes to not set a tax rate and not collect taxes on these slids, we could have legal problems.
It's my understanding that as long as we pay for the lights, we don't have to tax the people.
We have not budgeted funds in the approved budget to pay for, to offset the cost of the slids as part of the secondary property tax.
Personally, I don't, sorry, go ahead, John.
Well, you know, I was told that just because we have the slids in place with the developers does not mean that we have to enforce the tax on those slids. The town can pay for those slids.
That would be a Becky question then. Becky, if council decides to not levy a secondary property tax, where's the money going to come from to pay for all the street lights and
As you know, we entered into the budget with a $1.7 million deficit in the general fund. The general fund cannot support street lights there. Even though we have some monies coming in from the CARES, it's only to replace what we're spending. We will still have problems there. Now, the only other place would be the HERF fund, and they were not budgeted in the HERF fund. They were budgeted in the SLID funds, where we're supposed to collect an ad valorem tax there to support those electrical costs.
Yeah,
I don't know that this was brought up during the budget at all.
This is Lisa. I just wanted to add one thing, that the Town of Florence Council did have several work sessions on this. We adopted an ordinance for slids that would allow for council to set slids in the portions of town that do not have slids, if council would like to move forward with initiating those petitions. Since the adoption of that ordinance, town council did go out and create slid number 4 and slid number 5, which are 2 areas in the Anthem at Merrill Ranch district. And Mesquite Trails currently has 4 districts pending that will soon be coming before council for authorization. I just want everybody to know where we are in the process, what's on the horizon. And remember that that slid 4 and that slid 5, they were not created in the time to be on this particular taxation cycle. So they will be on the next cycle. And then just a reminder, you have 2 other slids that are currently created that have enough taxes that have been collected to not levy an amount this year. But very soon you will be opening up and levying on those as well.
I just wanted to make it clear that my intention was never to try to get rid of the slids altogether. My whole direction is that we know that there's a certain number of lights that are standard across Florence. And then there's the additional lights. And I believe that it's only fair that those additional lights should be included in the slids, but the standard lights that would normally be provided would be paid for with the general fund and not taxed on those individual districts, as those would be considered standard in any other area. So to me, I don't, this is something we can't go back as far as the, budget committee is concerned, but next year, and Brent, maybe you could help direct.
Uh-oh, she froze.
You know what? Let me see if I can.
Well, while she's frozen, I will just say this. In defense of the budget committee, we didn't talk about a lot of stuff because of COVID. So had we been able to have what I thought was going to be a full budget committee time, we probably would have gotten to this in more detail, because I know that Councilmember Anderson would have made sure that he brought it up.
Well, I think from what I looked at last year, we're talking about $90,000 is what we were paying for lights in Anthem a year. I just don't see that breaking our budget.
The only other place I could see it coming from in the budget right now is we have council contingencies.
Hey. Okay, you're back on?
Yes,
Yeah, you're back on.
We lost you.
Okay, so sorry guys, technology at its best.
Excuse me, council member or Vice Mayor Anderson, the slid costs on electrical for each district is close to $31,000 a year for each district, not 9,000.
That's at 90,000 total.
Oh, 90. Oh, I thought you said 9.
No.
So can I just finish real quick?
Yeah,
Sorry,
go ahead.
I apologize. The only other question that I had was to Brent, to what from a codes perspective, going forward, can we give to future councils, to ourselves in future budgetary years, to where they can segment out those amounts? Because I hear oftentimes that that's the standard excuse. This is written in our development agreements. This is written in our codes. What flexibility can we provide going forward to ensure that future councils have the ability to remove that portion?
We would need to rewrite that portion of the development code. To your point, probably the simplest way to do that, you want to have a mechanism to offset costs to the town. Otherwise, you're going to have an inverse financial relationship with growth. As you bring on more growth, the town's going to continue to get poorer. If we allow developers to install all this lighting and then we assume all of the costs for this additional lighting out of the general fund, we'll essentially be poor as a city. So the more we grow, the less money we have. That inverse relationship is not good business management. So to your point, Councilwoman, the way that we would probably look to do that is to designate, as you said before, and I know that you've had lots of conversations with Chris and Lisa with respect to this. The federal government, specifically FHWA, designates certain lighting requirements. I think you called it standardized earlier, but that's lighting at key intersections there's a whole list of things that where we have to legally provide lighting based on a certain traffic count. So we would segment that to whatever the standardized is versus the additional in subdivision lighting. And I see that as something that we could do. I don't know where Cliff's at on this, but from the legal perspective, we can't change the development agreements. So to John's point, as long as we're not pushing the cost onto the developer, they won't sue us. So we have to look at what that financial cost is going to be that needs to be incurred by the town. If we go ahead and change those codes. To Lisa's point that she said earlier, council asked us to come up with a solution for those areas that are not new development and not an Anthem, and you guys have approved that. So I'm guessing what we're waiting for there is for council to direct us to enter into some processes in those parts of town where there is not currently a SLID, to see if those folks that are in that area would be interested in forming a SLID. Whether they will be interested or not is a separate equation, and I don't believe we can force them. But we certainly could go in and look at the development code and define which lights could be paid for and which ones couldn't, and cost benefit analysis associated with that.
And again, just want to be clear, I would never force somebody to be in a SLID. And personally, I don't feel that's right. And I would never want to incur the cost of the in total SLID either. Just the generalized lighting, just the standardized lighting that would be mandatory per state law. I feel that should be a shared cost that normally everyone else would normally experience.
Thank you.
Well, my point is the residents are paying the whole bill. Now, do I pay it as a SLID tax or do I pay it as a city tax? But the burden for that street light in front of my house, I pay for. And I'm just saying, I think all the residents should pay for their street lights. I'm paying for mine. I'm paying for the ones downtown too. Now, that's just not right, guys.
Now, Mr. Billingsley,
Mm-hmm.
talk to, just for public clarification, because you and I have already had this conversation as well. And just for the record, I've also approached, talked, and shared concerns in regards to the SLID and how it's funded and how everything works. And we have had a lot of in-depth background shared in regards to the development agreement, how it started, how it's communicated when people purchase a home here, whether new, whether resale. But John just brought up another facet that, just for public information, I'd like shared at this time. And that is, where does the funding come from for the areas that are not in a SLID? I know the answer, but I just want you to give that background.
So the answer to that question is HERF. HERF pays for the street lights that are there in the downtown and these arterial streets and collector streets in the downtown. However, they're far less dense than the street lighting that exists in Anthem. Some communities have gone as far as limiting the lighting in subdivisions so that they didn't have to incur the cost. I know that I've been on the other side of this equation. I was in Maricopa for 7.5 years, and Maricopa didn't want to incur the costs of the street lighting. So the only street lighting in Maricopa was at key intersections. And then everybody's house had to be plumbed with garage lights on the outside that you couldn't turn off. And so that's how lighting was provided in those subdivisions because that was just how Maricopa decided they were going to provide street lighting in their subdivisions so that they didn't have the individual street light poles. Florence is not alone. Many communities, especially all high growth communities in the valley, they all have streetlight improvement districts because it ends up being a very large bill over time with growth in residential houses. One of the things that council could look at going forward as well, I don't know what the ramifications of it would be with the development agreement. That would be up to Cliff, but we could start limiting the amount of streetlights that are provided in subdivisions too. The intent originally from talking to Pulte is when they created Anthem at Merrill Ranch, people wanted a lot of light. People wanted a lot of trails. People wanted a lot of accessible sidewalks, and they wanted to feel safe in that community. So the decision was made to add additional lighting, and the method for payment for that additional lighting was streetlight improvement districts.
Excellent. And then 2 more things I'm just going to add. You know, the streetlights, all of the research that's out there in regards, it helps with the safe community and in keeping that safe community status because easily patrolled and you can see things at night. I know one of the changes that we've made throughout the years in regards to what is paid for in HERF funding, I remember the crack seal and the resurfacing that was done for the streets. That was paid for prior out of CFD. And that was one of the fights I had. And now it's paid for out of HERF. So we've been able to make some changes along the way.
Well, that's sort of backwards, Mayor.
Okay, go ahead.
So initially, when I first got here, it wasn't being done at all. And some of the streets were in not great condition. They weren't getting crack sealed. They weren't getting surface coats like slurry and microsurface. So we didn't have the ability financially to use the CFD, even though the CFD is supposed to provide annually money to maintain those streets that were built by the CFD. There wasn't enough money to do that. So council chose to use our HERF funds to kick up that maintenance and try to catch up with maintenance in the subdivision. And we've done that for 4 straight years. And Becky, correct me if I'm wrong, but this is the first year that we're budgeting some maintenance money out of the CFDs to try and help to offset some of those costs to HERF. Is that correct?
Yes, it sure is in both districts. It's not as much as we would like to see, but it's the best we can do right now with what the money that's generated in the district admin funds.
There wasn't a large line item on that one then.
No, there isn't.
Okay. Because I went through and I just remembered, you know, going back through those documents, that's how I had it. Cortez?
She's laughing at me because I've been raising my hand for.
Oh, Lord. Councilmember Wall, go ahead.
Well, I just want to point out, you know, if we're talking about fairness and the streetlights that exist in front of our homes, that we're also paying for the lighting in the core of the town, the argument really doesn't work because we also are paying for our pools, our trails, our common areas, our parks, and we're also paying for the pool and the library and all of those other amenities in the core. So it's not a matter of fairness. It's a matter of what amenities we have, where we have them, and what it costs to provide them. So I fully understand the reasoning behind the SLIDs, and it's a matter of where the money is going to come from. And if we're going to continue to grow, the burden for paying for the electricity for those new street lights would become impossible to manage within the town's general fund without giving up something else. So I think we have to look at how we're going to pay for continued growth, not a matter of whether or not it's fair that the people living downtown don't pay for the electricity. It's a matter of what we can provide and should provide as growth occurs within our town. So that's my take on it.
But just so everybody understands, the electricity for downtown and the parks was $82,000. Electricity for Anson was $87,000. So it's not just the core. I'm not just talking about Main Street lights. I'm talking about all the lighting in the town.
Now, I know what you're talking about. It's just a matter of whether or not you're paying for the other amenities that you have in Anthem through your HOA dues.
Well, I know, yeah. And I pay for all those lights that are in our parks and all that. And
you pay for the pool and the library.
Pool and pay for all that. Right. I also pay for the pool downtown, and I don't complain about that because that's available to me. You know, I can go use that pool downtown, even though I don't use either one of them, but I'm paying for them. And, you know, I don't mind paying for the library and all the downtown core stuff that we have. It's just, I just don't feel that we should be paying for all the street lights in town and having to pay for Anthem's special fee. Now, I know people don't want to hear this, but we're going to have to raise our taxes sooner or later. You know, if you look at your tax bill, each time we come up with a new item, rather than we're putting on the town tax rolls, we go set up a bond issue and pay for it and put it on our tax bill. The last time I looked at my tax bill, there's 13 items on there that we were paying taxes for. So you pay it out of one pocket or you pay it out of the other pocket. It's still the same money.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay. Does anybody else have any other comments or questions regarding this agenda item? Does anybody wish to give any staff direction moving into the future? Okay. With that, we need a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve ordinance number 696-20.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Better do a roll call vote, Lisa.
Roll call vote. Councilmember Wall.
Aye.
Councilmember Cordes.
Aye.
Councilmember Larson.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Anderson.
Nay.
Mayor Walter.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay, thank you. Item number 13, new business, resolution number 1745-20. Discussion, approval, disapproval to adopt resolution 1745-20. This is a resolution of the town of Florence, Pinal County, Arizona, affirming the approval of the amended final plat for Florence Plaza and authorizing the execution by the town manager of the supporting documents. Mr. Larry Harmer.
Before I start my presentation, I wanted to call it to Trenton's attention that the live streaming on a town's website, for whatever reason, just shifted over to an old Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. All of the council members have disappeared. Anyway, this item is fairly straightforward. The owner of the Florence Plaza, located out on Highway 79, has the Speedway service facility at the north end all the way down to the Dollar General at the south end. Currently exists in 4 lots. They wanted to create a 5th lot out of that by shifting some lot lines for financial reasons. State law requires that any subdivision of property under a single ownership of more than 3 lots requires a formal process, and that's what we're bringing to you tonight. We've in the process of doing this. Hanson Engineering and Surveying out of Coolidge has been handling the process for the owner. It's been reviewed by the town engineer. There does not seem to be any issues to it. There, you're all back on the streaming. The subdivision layout with the creation of the lots 4 and 5, with the separation of lot 4 into 4 and 5. The new lot line that separates the two, the existing buildings still will meet the required setback for the zoning classification. Lots 2 and 3's property lines shifted slightly, lot 2 being the undeveloped portion just south of the Speedway. As I said, this is fairly straightforward, so unless you have some specific questions, and I believe that we have a representative of the owner's agent from Hanson Engineering also on the line to address any technical questions that you might have.
I'm just curious what the reason for the division is.
It has to do with the personal finances of the owner themselves. That's kind of an area that we don't normally question. That's, they're not doing anything inappropriate or illegal, so it's their financial decision.
I was just hoping that we were going to hear that there's some development happening on that vacant lot.
I would be the first one to leak that to you if I knew that.
Agreed.
Thank you.
All right, are there any other questions or comments from council? With that, we need a motion on that item.
I make a motion that we approve resolution number 1745-20.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign. And that motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us this evening. Our next item is item number 13B. This is discussion, approval, disapproval of negotiation of a pre-annexation development agreement with Grinder Sports Group LLC to construct a mixed-use project in the town of Florence. Mr. Brent Billingsley.
Madam Mayor, members of council, it's a great pleasure that I'm before you this evening. As you are familiar, the town council has in the town have been working with a project known as Project Rattler for a number of months to try and bring a development to fruition, a large development in the town of Florence. That project is in its early phases. They've been before council a couple of times recently regarding a major general plan amendment, which is in process and I believe is set to come back to council after the public hearing process. I want to say an October or November timeframe. In addition, Grinders has been working with staff on an annexation petition and an annexation application. Following that, there would be a zoning process, but as part of all of this discussion, Grinders has applied through the town process for a development agreement process. In this case, it'll be different than what we've done with other economic development projects in that this will be a pre-annexation development agreement application because one of the parcels in question is not currently in the town of Florence and will require an annexation prior to being able for the town to be able to ratify a development agreement. So this one's a little different. Pre-annexation development agreement. As you have seen, the town has received a generous amount of information, not only in the development agreement application, but in the information that they've provided for the general plan amendment. We have 2 representatives of Grinders Sports that are to join us today. I see Kelly right now. We have Kelly Stinnett, as well as Lyndon Estill. Hopefully Lyndon is on the line as well. They have prepared a small slide deck of what their project may look like and where it's located. Trenton, can you help out by getting that presentation up on the screen?
Sure, give me one quick moment.
While he's doing that, thank you, gentlemen, for joining us this evening.
Thanks for having
All right,
us. Everybody hear
Lyndon
me?
and Kelly, it's all yours.
Madam Mayor, thank you for having us. Madam Mayor, Vice Mayor, City Council members, appreciate you guys taking time this evening to, you go on mute, Linda. There we go. Sorry about the echo, guys. This technology these days, all these Zoom meetings. First off, how's my hair, guys? My hair look okay? Just to make sure one day I'll have hair like Brent. So hey, just gonna liven it up a little bit. First off, just thanks for having us. This has been something that I've been trying to do for a while. My last year playing, fortunate to play 14 years in the big league, 17 years of professional baseball. Retired in 06, started a little league team with 2 of my little guys. They were 9 and 10 at the time. Little League's a great organization, great place to start for kids. But if you want to develop kids and you're only having 3 or 4 show up at a practice, it kind of, it's not good for development. So I kind of started my own little sports travel team, Grinders Baseball. Got the name Grinders. It was given to me from Glenn Sherlock, who was a longtime member of the Arizona Diamondbacks. It's kind of the way I play the game. You grind it out every day. You may not be the best, but you show up every day, prepare yourself, ready to play. So years of searching for fields, trying to find facilities, renting fields. And as most of you guys know nowadays, with the way the schools are, everything's locked up, bordered. I know as a kid, I'd go down to my grade school and we'd play whatever sport it was, basketball, baseball, football, we'd have access to the field. I mean, there's hardly any field access nowadays. I was fortunate enough to get named the first head baseball coach at Benedictine University in Mesa. Once again, facilities were an issue. We had to rent a field, Gene Autry in Mesa. You're paying out the nose. And small schools don't have the best of budgets. Here to you guys in Florence, obviously budgets are a concern. And hopefully bringing something like this will help alleviate some of those concerns down the road. I'm now the head baseball coach at Park University in downtown Gilbert. Once again, no facilities. We're struggling with finding fields. That being said, we're going to figure a way to get it done. We're going to grind it out every day. So that's kind of my little spill as far as where this all started. So I'll let Lennon kind of take over and talk about what all is involved in this project, what we're trying to do, how can we partner up to, hopefully bring a world-class facility to this side of the country and to Florence and Pinal County.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, fellow council members. Thank you for having us. Yeah, like Kelly said, it is a project that's obviously near and dear to us, as former ball players, and looking to bridge the gap and further the opportunity for youngsters, not only in the state of Arizona, but specifically in the Southeast Valley and through the Florence corridor. Not only Florence proper, but the Anthem community, as well as Santan Valley and the surrounding municipalities. Through the deck, I mean, obviously there is a large master planned multi-sports complex. Obviously, Kelly and I, having our baseball backgrounds, that's originally where it started. But looking at the youth sports industry as a whole, we realized there's more youth participation just outside of baseball, across a multitude of sports. And the project grew legs. Just ultimately, the idea became how many families and how many individuals, how many amateur kids and prospective athletes, kids wanting to go to college and having those opportunities, how many of those kids could we affect and could we reach? Which is ultimately why the project grew as large as it did.
Lyndon, just tell him when you want him to change slides, and he'll change slides.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, we can get into the team a little bit. Yeah, can we go down to the next slide? So, overview of the complex. It is vastly large. I mean, just to highlight a few things, more than just sports, obviously looking at sports medicine and the health and safety of the youth athletes and the participants, making sure the sports medicine facilities and rehab facilities for not only injury recovery, but also injury prevention were on the very height of the importance for us as we look forward into developing kids. Obviously, we know the risk of participation, but also making sure that they have a world-class facility to recover from injuries that may have been sustained previously, or that they're at risk too, but also making sure they have the availability of further information to make sure that they know how to train their body, how to treat their body, and avoid those possible injuries as well. Above that, I mean, we have a multitude of things that are obviously going to come in to support the sports complex as well. Outside of the sports complex, you have a variety of supporting businesses that are going to thrive off of the continued traffic, as well as hotel stays for incoming visitors to increase the tourism base, as well as the restaurants, food and beverage, and further amenities that will be a benefit for the local community to utilize as well. It's not just a planned community for events and outside visitors, but also somewhere where the local traffic and the local community will be able to take advantage of all the amenities, of all of the training, the sports, the opportunities for the kids, the coaching, the information, as well as all of the amenities, the restaurants, the amenities of, say, a movie theater, a bowling alley, and things of that nature. So we wanted to make sure that everything that we highlight to bring to this complex wasn't just for the complex visitors solely, but also looking toward what is the community needs, what is going to heighten the community, and what is going to impact at the very base level. Can we go to the next few slides rather quickly? I mean, so the executive team coming through, obviously Kelly Stinnett, who everybody just met, Mr. Drew Marino, who is a vital piece of our team, has been operating and running complexes for roughly the last 15 to 20 years. Can we go to the next slide, please? Yeah, we have that guy at the top. Mr. Don Mitchell, who is the former scouting director for the Arizona Diamondbacks. He is a key member of our team, not only on the player development side, but also evaluating talent and taking a very large and deep look into the abilities of every player, not only from where they are, but what do they need to continue to progress, to move forward? Where are they maybe lacking? What are their strengths and weaknesses? And then building a program to make sure that they have the opportunity to excel past where they may think their limitations are currently. Next slide, please. Mr. Victor Marquez is our lead counsel. He is with the firm Squire Patton Boggs, who is one of the oldest firms acting here in the state of Arizona. They have a very heavy presence here. He is a vital member of our team. He has a long 30-year history within real estate and commercial development, and has been very crucial in our relationships and dealing with Mr. Brent Billingsley, and really understanding how to push some of those programs forward and making sure that we avoid any missteps, or at least navigate through some of the pitfalls we may step into. Mr. Corey Shepard is with a firm called Cresta Global. He's our project manager. When it comes to the construction side and making sure that we understand and everybody involved understand what are the important pieces to look out for and plan for as far as scheduling, vertical construction, making sure that we stay on top of any ordinances that we may fall into, or what is going to ultimately make this experience in this complex the best that it can be from a structural standpoint. Next slide, please. Leslie Carey is a new member of our group. She is with Cashmere Hotels. We are actually very excited to bring her into the fold. She is a well respected leader in the resort hotel community, and she is one thing I really can say about Leslie is her passion toward health and wellness. It seems like every conversation that we have ultimately comes back to what are the overall opportunities for health and wellness within resorts, and being able to offer that not only to guests, but also making sure that those benefits and those opportunities are always returned to the communities that support her industry. Mr. Dean Reinmuth is a leader in the golf field, and their partnership between Dean and Leslie as far as bringing the resort from Cashmere Hotels and bringing that as a destination golf resort to try to pull some of that golf traffic that we know downtown Phoenix and the surrounding areas are really drive throughout the year, being able to pull and build an attraction of that magnitude to capture some of that audience and bring those visitors, those dollars, those spent dollars into this community. Next slide, please. Mr. Joe Malloy is another new member of our group, and I mean, the first line of the slide basically says it all. He is a former senior executive for the New York Yankees. I personally did not play with the New York Yankees, and I grew up in Seattle with a very questionable allegiance toward the Yankees, but you can't deny the excellence that comes with that name. And he was a very active member of bringing and building that relationship and that pedigree that became the Yankees through the mid-90s. And we're very excited to have him on board. His reach and experience as far as running a world-class organization, a world-class facility, and making sure that every piece of this complex are enjoyable for not only the visitors, but again, for the residents of the community. Mr. Adam Padilla is our marketing guru. He's with Brandfire out of New York, and he is probably one of the most creative gentlemen I've ever met. We had our intro call. The first time I met Adam we spent 45 minutes brainstorming what this complex could be rather than the meet and greet. I mean, I think we went over the hays and how are you doing for maybe 3 minutes and spent 45 minutes brainstorming exactly what the complex could look like and how some of the advertising opportunities and the dollars that come along with, as well as the additional expenditures and marketing aspects that can be available within the complex and within the surrounding property, will ultimately benefit every visitor's experience. Next slide, please. Let's go to the next slide. It should be a little more zoomed in so everybody can get a actual feel.
Interrupt real quick, but people are saying that they're showing the P&Z meeting again on the stream.
Would not want that.
I want you to be heard.
No.
Just
Councilor Larson, thank you.
Just so council is aware, we have 2 live streams running, and one of the other streams is overriding this stream. So I have my staff currently working on it while I'm running the presentation.
Madam Mayor, should we pause at this moment and wait for the live stream to come back, or should we continue?
Trenton, how long do you think that will take?
It'll take a couple of minutes, Mayor.
Okay, we can take a pause for a moment.
Okay.
Hey, Lyndon, can we go back to the previous slide?
So my staff has finished stopping the other stream. So let's just wait just a few more seconds. I'll let you know when the live stream is actually back up and running.
Hey, Trenton, can we go back to the previous slide?
Sure can. Hang on.
I think one of the things that's important to show both the council and those folks that may be watching from home in terms of where this development sets. The road that you see through the middle, it's kind of difficult to see, but that's Judd Road. And right where it says Judd Road, that's the Central Arizona Project Canal. Attaway is 1/2 mile to the west. So that road that you see running north-south is Attaway on the far left-hand side of the screen. The houses that you see developed in the middle of the screen, that's where the mayor works. That's Magma Ranch, and the Magma Ranch School is right in the middle of that. So the two parcels that Grinders is talking about, one of those is just south of Judd Road, and that says hotels, entertainment, and restaurants. And then the parcel to the north is the one that there's a blow up on the next screen, which is the actual sports complex. I thought it would be important to share that with everybody so you can kind of get the bearings for where this project's potentially located. So go ahead, Trenton, you can go to the next slide.
Oh, thank you, Brett, for that explanation.
Yeah, just so everybody's aware, the stream is back live. We've solved the issue causing the stream to go back and forth between two different meetings. Next slide.
So this is the overview of the massive complex that has been the brainchild for some time. As you can see, it's very vast and a little overwhelming to comprehend. But ultimately, this is what we were discussing before, which understanding how many opportunities can we create, how many youth athletes and prospective athletes, kids that only have the dream currently of being a major league baseball player, soccer player, an NBA star, things of that nature. This allows us to do all things. It allows us to not only run local events, local tournaments, local games, local leagues, but also player development, and everything is able to happen at the same time. It also gives us the opportunity to hold regional and national events and bring national traffic and international competition to the site and to the area for not only the economic impact, but also the exposure that is otherwise limited to either driving up to Maricopa, traveling to an event in Georgia or California or New York. Now those events are able to come here. Now we are able to attract national exposure, national, colleges that may or may not have the budget to come to this area of the country because they have to pick between going to a major market like a New York City or an L or a Los Angeles. And now they have a reason because they have the opportunity to get a better value for their recruiting dollar. It's obviously a passion that's near and dear to us with being able to give these opportunities to young athletes and young people, as well as not just, like I mentioned before, not just run the events and the exposure side, but also do the hands-on development and make sure that if there is a reason that they're being passed over or overlooked, or maybe they didn't make their high school team as a freshman or a sophomore, what have you, this is a place where they can come and get world-class training and have the opportunity to utilize all of these amenities and develop their skills and still continue to pursue their dreams. Trent, can we go to, yeah, thank you. So the proposed hotels and what we have been considering the downtown district. It's right now, obviously, this piece of the development is in its infancy, and bringing on the critical partners that we have here recently, this is ongoingly changing and growing and developing into what will ultimately be the downtown hospitality area. And having the opportunity to bring restaurants and shops, retail, hotels, anywhere from a high-end resort style that mirrors with a golf course, but even to a weekend accessible hotel where you don't feel like you're having to break the bank to have your child participate on the site. being able to have a value for everybody and everybody's personal situation. When Kelly and I first met, it was a very easy conversation to have, where he explained to me that every single child deserves the opportunity, regardless of where they came from. And that stuck with me. And so in building this entire organization and this entire complex, that is on the forefront of every single decision that we make. Trent, can we go to the next slide? Thank you. So as I said, this is a massive undertaking, and obviously continuing to grow and build. But for an overall scope of understanding exactly what this concept is, I think this is a little easier to sink your teeth into. The issue of water was raised earlier, and obviously water is a very valuable resource, especially here in Arizona, and especially in Southeast Valley. Every auxiliary field is planned to be artificial turf. The water use is next to zero for the turfs, for every single surface, and you don't have to take time off of the fields in order to let the grass regrow and the continued maintenance. Every field is game ready, practice ready, event ready, development ready, every minute of every day. And that is something that we looked at as an overall cost. In the upfront, that was a higher value ticket to be able to utilize, to be able to offer more programs throughout the day, throughout the week, throughout the year, without having to cut back on time restrictions that ultimately would equal young people missing out on opportunities. Trenton, I believe that's thank you. The indoor field house that I did not get to is planned for 10 to 12 hardwood collegiate style courts. All are able to dual purpose into volleyball courts and anything that happens, any of the indoor sports, whether it's cheerleading, basketball, volleyball, martial arts, wrestling, the list goes on and on. As you can see, we've really taken it to the point where nothing should be out of limit and out of range as far as a youth participation activity to be able to be utilized. The fitness center, obviously, like we mentioned before, with the health and wellness, is a very, very centerpiece of making sure this development, the youth development goes through and the youth development continues to grow, and making sure that we have the best possible staff teaching these young people and impacting their lives. Trent, I believe that is the end of, oh, no, it is not, excuse me. That we still have one more. The attractions supporting the rest of the property are, as you can see, there's a multitude of them. And like I mentioned before, the amenities available to the community to support the daily life, the evening life, the weekend life. Whether you're an athlete, a youth athlete, an adult athlete, a weekend warrior, or you just want to go to a bowling alley or play golf, want to go to a movie theater once COVID allows us to go back to movie theaters, or a paintball, whatever the case may be, we are actively trying to build amenities and attractions to support everybody's. Now, I say that, I know I'm going to miss somebody, and I don't want to make anybody feel like they got left out, but as many amenities as we can to support daily life within the community. Again, not only for the visitors from out of town, from Phoenix, from Tucson, from across the country, but very specifically for the citizens in the community and impacting and improving those amenities that are available to them. And again, more of the list of the amenity attraction. Again, this list has been shared with Mr. Brent Billingsley and will be available. Obviously, I can't get all the way through it today, or at least speak into very, very great detail. I tried. Madam Mayor, I apologize if I went a little too long and I rambled a little too long, but obviously this project is a very, very strong passion for Kelly and myself, and we obviously believe very strongly in what we're building, and size-wise, it got a little out of hand, but ultimately, we believe that everything we have built and designed is for the right reason and for the betterment of not only our youth, our sports community, but the entire community of Southeast Valley and the state of Arizona. So thank you guys for having us. I imagine there will be quite a few questions.
There will be, but I want to say thank you. You did really well on that presentation. Very well. And I want to say to both of you that I love your passion, I love your ideas, and I love how much thought you've put into them. Obviously, you're both, very experienced with the background in regards to sports, and you have all of the network to bring this to life. The powerhouse team that you have put together with their background and experience is incredible. And it's just so multifaceted of an idea that you're really presenting. So I want to say thank you, because you're very in depth with it, and it's appreciated. I did get a message. Somebody said, is there any way that this PDF can be put onto our town website? So I don't know if you'd be open to sharing that, so that way we can pop that up.
Brent, that should be, that version should be completely cleared of any confidential information, so we don't get into any legal situations with any NDAs. But I think this version is good, correct?
Yes, it's all public information now, Lyndon. So yes.
Well, so we'll either way, here we go.
We'll make sure that that we make that available to the public. The only clarification I would provide, Mayor, is we're not approving the development tonight. It's not going to start construction next week.
The development
We're
agreement.
merely in front of council this evening to say, would council like us to begin a negotiation on a pre-annexation development agreement with Grinder Sports?
Exactly, yes.
All
right.
Question, Mayor.
Yes, ma'am.
So I would like to know what other areas you looked at and what ultimately made you decide to pick Florence and Pinal County.
No, thank you. We've actually been in the process for, and the site search took about 2 years. Obviously, the land, the available acreage was obviously a big factor, because obviously this project doesn't sit on very many available parcels within that anybody's really open to, used to seeing. It was looked at, we spent a long time going all around the entirety of the valley, trying to figure out what is ultimately going to be the best fit. But ultimately what came down to was not only the land that was available in the area, but also how underserved the market was. When you look at Maricopa County and you look at downtown Phoenix and the surrounding areas, the greater metro Phoenix area, there is a plethora of spring training opportunities. There's a plethora of multi-field soccer parks, and the availability to that community is significantly greater than what we found was available to Southeast Valley. The lower Santan Valley, Florence, Anthem, down through Eloy, it seemed like that area was completely overlooked. And as we mentioned before, it's not the kids' fault that, what situation they were born into. So being able to serve a market that was completely underserved and underappreciated was more of a reason to say, let's do it here. Let's give this community something that everyone else has basically looked over.
Thank you. I appreciate that, and I'm sure citizens do as well. We're a small town, and so big projects like this make people nervous. And everybody wants growth, but they're a little afraid of growth at the same time. So I think if the residents understand your passion and the service that you want to bring to them and why you want to bring it here, it's going to really help the citizens feel better about this project, and knowing that it's a benefit for their children. We all love our kids, and all of council is very supportive of all the kids in our community and surrounding areas. So I look forward to seeing some progress on this.
No, thank you.
Question.
Councilmember Larson, go ahead.
I'm glad Michelle asked those questions. That was some of my some questions as well. But I'm so happy that you guys are here to talk. I'm so impressed with all the things that you guys have offered through sports programs as well as amenities to our community, and the prospect of this project coming to fruition. One thing that's always been near and dear to my heart is scooter and skating. My son used to play baseball, used to do soccer, used to do all those sports, and now he loves to scooter ride. And so we often travel to different locations around the state for different scooter parks. So that was just another idea. I know you've got everything included, including the kitchen sink in your project, but that's just one little minor thing. I'd be remiss if I missed it. If I didn't say it, that would be another opportunity out there as well that is very underserved, not just locally here in Florence, but regionally.
No, absolutely. And obviously that the list that was provided is it's not complete. I guess is the easiest way to say it. You know, there is always going to be underserved subset communities like the scooter and skating and riding and BMX and things of that nature. If it's absolutely completely feasible to add something like that into the project, you know, it's just a matter of figuring out what is the best place within the project to place it, not only from an accessibility standpoint, you know, making sure that people know where it is and how to access it. You know, if it was put in the far reach of behind 54 different fields, people would feel like it was pushed to the back corner, and, you know, and it was a struggle to get there. You know, making sure that there is land use available for something like that was accessible and open and visual, you know, that's more of a deciding factor on where things get placed and how they get allocated. You know, there's a multitude of growth opportunity within this project, within further development of other parcels of land and growing it through future phases, that things like that will absolutely be considered and put into very, very heavy consideration. No, thank you.
I love everything that you guys have proposed at this point. I am very excited. No way trying to tell you how to run your business. So
no, suggestions are always welcome. No, thank you.
Question for Brent.
Yes, sir.
Trying to figure out how much is going to be in this annexation. The north parcel there doesn't touch any of the current corporation limits.
That's correct.
Magna Ranch going to be part of this? Or
no, not at this time. Of course, it's not up to us what it's annexed as part of their application. Grinders will be sponsoring that annexation application itself. Last time I talked to Larry, it looked like there would be two separate annexations. The parcel that is directly south and west of the far northern parcel is owned by an individual who Larry's been working with for quite some time, who's wanted to be annexed into the town. Okay. That's known as Magna Ranch Phase 3, I believe it. So that parcel and the parcel that Lyndon was speaking to the north would be one annexation. The other annexation would be for the parcel where the hotels and entertainment district would be, and it borders the town.
Yes. Yeah. Okay.
So two separate annexations.
Okay. Thank you.
Brent, I have a question about that as well.
Yep.
I've heard a lot of discussion about the potential annexation and things like Wild Horse Estates and Crestfield Manor. Is there any, I know that those landowners individually would have to request the annexation, correct?
Yes.
So
we would hope that they would get together and approach the town, and there's a process for that.
Okay. Is there any way to sort of do it as a joint effort, or is it something they have to individually do per property owner?
It would be separate annexation. So what we've met with both Wild Horse and Crestfield previously. Gosh, Lisa, I want to say 2-3 years ago. I think it was right before the last election, as a matter of fact. So it was probably a little over 2 years ago. And They were trying to get a group of people together to discuss potential annexation, but they couldn't get enough folks together. There's two different components to the petition. One of those has to do with properties themselves and the owners of those properties. The second has to do with valuation of those properties. And both of those litmus tests need to be met as part of the petition in order to have a complete petition and to file it with the town and the county.
The group that approached us was very interested. It was last one that approached us was Crestfield Manor. The reason why they backed away from the table was because of the requested feasibility study showing and we encouraged them to work with developers that could potentially pay for the cost of the feasibility study, and that is one of the requirements for annexation.
Okay.
I have a question. Would either one of those annexations create an island not bordering on town limits?
No, ma'am. That's actually illegal under the law to create an island. So no, they wouldn't create an island.
Okay, thank you.
We have an idea of just like a ballpark off the top of your head, Brent, what annexation might cost us?
No, that's part of the process, is that we have to work through that feasibility. A lot of it depends on type of development. Anytime you do an annexation and you bring in an area that's either commercial or industrial, it strongly is in favor due to that ongoing tax stream, both from property tax as well as sales tax, that commercial development always has a very positive cash flow in terms of bringing that into the town. The challenge comes when you annex residential development. Any residential development that you annex costs you money over time instead of making money. And the clear distinction there, and I presented to council years ago, we went through this process of discussing annexation and cost benefit analysis. Typically, if you are going to annex a residential area, you annex an area that either has had very little development yet, so you're catching it at an early phase, or hasn't had homes built on it yet, because it really helps in terms of the cost benefit analysis if you're able to collect development impact fees and then one-time fees and things like transaction privilege taxes from development. But if you talk about going in and annexing a pre-developed area that already has most all the houses built out, it's very negative from a cash flow perspective. Does that make sense?
Yep, it does. And then do we have an idea what this project might cost?
That's a good question for Lyndon.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, the final construction number is still being worked out. Obviously, it is a very large opportunity, but looking at it from a phasing standpoint, we are actually currently going through that exercise right now and finalizing based on phases, based on need, based on development schedule, which each of those price points are going to end up being, and those numbers should be available relatively soon.
Okay, thank you.
I would tell council that we do have a non-disclosure agreement. And so Lyndon and I have had some conversations about these type of things, but I can't share them. Yeah, we may have future, well, we will have future e-sessions with respect to the pre-annexation development agreement where those type of things are broken down deeper.
I was going to say that when we get into these annexation agreements, that's when we'll get into who's paying for what and the infrastructure costs and stuff like that, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Councilmember Wall, did you have anything else? Okay. Just wanted to make sure because you're so patient.
Oh, I'm good.
Okay.
Not waving your hand.
All right, Councilmember Larson? Okay. Well, again, gentlemen, thank you so much for taking the time and attending our meeting this evening and presenting. We're looking forward to, continuing a partnership.
Perfect. Madam Mayor, council members, Brent, thank you guys for having us.
Thanks, guys. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so now back to this agenda item. We do need a motion. Who would like to make that?
I'll make a motion to approve the negotiation of a pre-annexation development agreement with Grinders Sports Group, LLC, to construct a mixed-use project in the town of Florence.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. And number 14, our manager's report. Mr. Billingsley?
Madam Mayor, members of council, I think we've kept you here late enough tonight with some long presentations, so I will forego my manager's report.
All right. This is our second call to the public. Is there anybody who called in during this time, Ms. Garcia?
Madam Mayor, I have a few members of the public that are online. I'm going to allow them to speak at this point. If any members of the public wish to speak, please state your name and your address. Please keep in mind you want to keep your statements to 3 minutes or less. And at this time, you may proceed.
Hi, who's up first?
Okay, at this time, Mayor, I don't think any members of the public are going to speak at this time.
Okay. We'll go ahead and close call to the public. Call to the council for current events only. Council Member Wall.
I don't have anything.
Council Member Larson.
I just wanted to say I know there is a lot of questions with the Grinders Sports coming in, and we're very optimistic about this development agreement. I just want to remind everyone that this is the time when we are going to be doing those investigations, and we are, as far as feasibility reports and what everything looks like and tangibles and all of that. So all of those questions will have their time to be answered. This is just the first phase of that. So I just don't want anyone to either get their hopes up too much or think that we're not answering their questions. Those questions will certainly get answered.
Excellent. Council Member Cortez.
I'll just say what I always say. Please check in on your neighbors and make sure that they are healthy and that they have all the supplies that they need. We're not over this yet. We haven't gotten over that hump yet. So we're all praying for that to come quickly. And then I did want to talk about, I'm the liaison to the school district, and they have, correct me if I'm wrong, Mayor, 3 seats open for their school board, and no one is running, not a single soul. The 3 seats are going to be vacant. So they will have to be appointed by Jill Brajard, who is the Pinal County Superintendent. So I know we all have strong opinions and we all want to support our community, and our school needs some really great people on their board, people that want to help our district thrive, help our district grow, especially if we're going to have Grinder Sports in our district area, and they're going to be bringing in, it looks like, a charter school. So we really want to make sure that our public schools are the best that they can be and that they have everything they need. And that starts with their school board, just like the town starts with our council. For the district, it starts with the school board. So if you or anyone that are interested and you live within the school district boundaries, so you don't have to live in the town boundaries, you have to live in the school district boundaries, so that goes into Santan, you can contact Pinal County Superintendent and let her know that you are interested in being appointed to one of those 3 positions. And I'm not sure exactly how she's going to do it, if she'll do interviews or what. Too late to get on the ballot. But I strongly suggest that anyone who's interested to at least have a conversation with her and see what it entails, because we desperately need to have good people on our school board who are passionate about our children, passionate about education, and passionate about making all of FUSD a great community. Because when you have great schools, it helps your home prices. It helps the value of your home stay steady and rising. When you have schools that are failing, people don't want to move there. So we need to keep our schools constantly improving and raising the level of what our students are getting. We have great teachers, we've got great staff, and now we just need to fill our school board. And that's it. Have a great week.
Thank you. Vice Mayor?
Well, I would just like to thank our town and our citizens for all the news that's been on lately about all the riots and all the unrest that's going on. You know, I sat there and watched that and just realized how lucky we are that we have a lot of nice people living in Florence. We've got good public safety personnel, and I'm just so thankful for those folks. I want to thank the people for Florence for being Florence. You know, we just don't think about it, but you know, we talk about walking downtown. You know, we can walk downtown. People will speak to you. You can say hi to your neighbor. You know, this CODA thing is sort of put the price on a lot of that. But when we walk our dogs every morning, we still speak to our neighbors, and neighbors speak to us. We know, you know, I know the dogs by name. I don't know the people. That's just so nice living in Florence, and I want to thank everybody for that.
Very well said. Well, I want to just echo everybody's sentiments from this evening. I feel that everything was already covered. And again, I'm very appreciative of the presentations that happened here this evening. Meeting the new director of the Florence Hospital and seeing that relationship grow, as well as the services that we're going to be able to expand upon in the future. I'm really looking forward to the development agreements moving forward with Grinders and everything that they're bringing to the table. Again, that project is multifaceted and they really have put together a powerhouse team. So I'm very, very optimistic of what that is going to bring to our area. So this is the end of our meeting this evening. We are at number 17 on our Mr. Vice Mayor. How can I help you?
You were supposed to make an announcement tonight.
Thank you. You know what? So Mr. Anderson, our Vice Mayor, love you. You are amazing because he has been serving on planning and zoning. Councilmember Hawkins was our planning and zoning council liaison, and Vice Mayor has been actively participating in that role. And this evening, I want to make a formal announcement that he is going to be taking over the duties in an official capacity on planning and zoning.
Thank you.
So thank you. Thank you for waving your arms.
I look forward to it.
I had so many notes, it was on my first page. All right. So with that, we do need a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn our meeting.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Have a great evening, everybody, and a fabulous week.